And welcome back. We're going to continue working with some arrays here. This was the program that we just did last time that showed you how to create an array of something of a given size, initialize all the elements to 0 by initializing the first one and causing everybody else to be initialized too. And then this showed you how we can print it out. Now, arrays in C++ are kind of interesting little things. Something that they can do, which is not good, is they don't have any kinds of internal bounds checking on this. What bounds means is can you move or use an index, like I here, outside of the range of the array. For example, this array was listed as size 5. Well, if I sat here and said, okay, let me change this and let me type in 5, which is a very common thing to do because we forget to use constants. This will still work because this is right. But if I forget and I think, oh, what if I have 10? What's going to happen here? Well, let's play with this a little bit. First thing I want to do is comment out that piece and add in this and do things I equals I. There we go. Just to put some values in there. This piece right here, I'm going to copy pasta. Actually, I'll copy pasta the whole thing. So we'll load it and print it. And something you should start to notice is that when you're working with arrays, because of the way they work, you'll see a lot of for loops because they're fixed size things. We know how big they are, well, we should, and we know how to work our way through them. It's a very linear process for a lot of things in loading, printing, and manipulating arrays. So in this case, we're going to go through this. We know we've declared an array of size 5. We know we've set it all to 0. And here we are going to go ahead and run with this thing and load each individual element with whatever I is, starting at 0 through 9. And then we're going to print it out. And let's see what happens. And look what happened here. We were successful in loading 0 through 9 to memory. And if you remember when we did the Excel sheet and I showed you how the math works, this is literally nothing more than a memory address kind of manipulator. We find where things is, we take I, whatever I value is, multiply it times the size of an integer and add it to the address of things to get the succeeding addresses all the way down. What this just showed, though, is that our array of only size 5 from 0 through 4 actually loaded 5 additional integer size spaces beyond the end of the array. C++, the compiler, nothing stopped any of this. The problem comes in is when you have a whole bunch of different variables going on, this will actually cause you to overwrite other variables and or have other variables overwrite what you've got inside the system. So this is a very common problem with most people when they're starting with arrays, is they forget to use things like constants. They type things in and they get off. Or even worse, the more common one is this. You'll do less than or equal to size. Well, less than or equal to size now takes you from 0 all the way to 5. We only have all the way to size minus 1, which is 4. If I run this one, you can see I can still access memory locations. I haven't put anything there, but I've loaded all those things up. You have to be very, very careful with this. This less than or equal thing will catch you. Common beginner problem. The next common beginner problem is to do less than or equal to, and instead of starting at 0, start at 1. Well, as soon as you do this, now you're going from 1 to 5. You do have 5 elements, but you're missing the very first element. You're missing element 0. So here is another off by 1 error that can happen. And you'll see it starts off with 0. Our 0th element was still zeroed from this, but when we started this thing off, we started loading it up with 1. So 1 through 5. Ta-da! And then once again, you're still able to run out and see things that aren't really yours to work with. So common problems to be careful of. Make sure you start at 0. Make sure you go to less than the size. Do not use constant literals in here to control where you're going to unless you explicitly know that it's inside the bounds of the array. And then you can make sure that you are nice and safe inside the way things work. And this is the beginning of how to actually manipulate arrays. Now, I want to show you something else here while we're working on this. This is a very common set of errors. But the thing is to notice, we have for loops running. Can you do them in parallel? Yes. Can you run them in the same thing like I did by commenting out the code? Certainly. We can store it and print it at the same time. So be careful when you start seeing all the duplication of code. Make sure that what you're duplicating makes sense in what you're trying to do. Next up, on the next set of lectures, we'll show you a little bit more on how to do things with functions and arrays. And I'll catch you on the other side. Have a great day.